Today, this is a special episode of the LA Business Podcast. We recorded it live in early April. Most of the conversation is not around the current coronavirus, but we do talk about it a little bit. So the dates and data that we reference is from early April. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the LA Business Podcast, a forum for business owners and senior executives to share the experiences about the elements that drive their success. Your host is Robert Brill, CEO of Brill Media.co, an Inc. 500 company delivering the power of hyperlocal advertising. Robert writes for Forbes, Inc. and ad trade publications. Our goal is to bring you the stories about successes and failures of people who are making big things happen in marketing, entrepreneurship, and management.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the LA Business Podcast. Today our guests are the folks at MediaMint. We have Jason Riback, President, Ashay Pratkar, Chief Client Officer, and Scott Rothstein, Vice President, Business Development. Thanks for being with us.
Of course. So Rob, MediaMint is a media technology operations outsourcing partner. So we work with a wide variety of companies across the media space, helping them with all of their day-to-day operational execution tasks. So everything from basically ad operations, campaign management. We've got a 70-person creative design team. We've got a data analytics team, DevOps and technical development. And so building operations, essentially all of the actions that as you grow, you need to scale quickly with a responsible and high quality team.
And what are you guys' roles? What's the differentiation between president and chief client officer? We're not a big organization, so we don't have those distinctions.
Good question. So, our organization, we've reached about 800 people today. So as you kind of grow, you need to make sure that you just have the right leaders at each level. As president, I look at the overarching business. Who are the types of clients that we're serving? What are the functions that we can be growing into and supporting? So we've grown very organically and served a wider breadth of functions over time as we can consult with our clients. Ashay, as the Chief Client Officer, he really leads the client engagement team. So if you think about, first we engage clients with the business development side. Then on the client engagement team, we help onboard the clients, make sure we're setting up the perfect team for each of their needs. And then he works very closely with the delivery team as well in India to make sure that we are hitting all of our metrics and hopefully exceeding expectations.
So very interesting. So Ashay, let me ask you a question. It seems like your role, it seems to be a lot around operational excellence. Would you look at it like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So two pieces to it, right? So there is a sales side of the business and there is the operation side of the business. Our group in many ways sits right in between these two groups. So, all of the sales expectations, etc. We need to ensure that they are carried through when we engage in the relationship. So, good transition management, good onboarding, ensuring client satisfaction levels are up to the mark. That's one side of the role. The other piece is, operational excellence, building strategic relationships, adding continuous value to our clients from taking that consultative approach. We work with a bunch of clients in our industry. So there are certain kind of, process excellence pieces, best practices that we can consult just because we have so much availability of data. So kind of, bringing those two together is kind of the key to succeeding in the role that I am in. In our company, the delivery folks don't fear the clients as much as the client engagement people, because they are constantly on their head to even if the client's like, hey, this is fine, we'll get to it. Just in terms of operational excellence, process excellence, the adherence pieces, that's the role that we play. One of the things that we continuously stress is we want our teams to be working as if the client is right next to them, right? So when we call ourselves the extension of our clients, that's the gap that needs to be bridged, right? So we are thinking for the client, we're being client advocates, and in many ways, that shows in the eventual performance.
Perhaps most important from my perspective on the business development sales side is, and he mentioned it, is the transition, because I think the handoff from sales to the actual delivery team, which Ashay's team is instrumental in, is probably the most vulnerable point in the whole process, because I've set expectations that we could, that our team is going to do these functions and perform them the way you, the client, expect it. Ashay's really his team is the one who makes that actually happen the way it should, and also sets up the long-term success, I think, of clients, where we operate on a train the trainer kind of model. So you only have to train our team in terms of what you want done once, and as your team scales, we're able to continuously do that in the background. I mean, I always make the analysis or the comparison, the analogy to like JSON, the way as you're loading a page, as the page loads on a website, the rest of it's loading in the background, so that as you move the map or whatever the component is, it's there and it works.
And I totally hear that, right? Like it's important, if you're going to sell something, you got to know that you can actually deliver on it effectively. If you can't deliver on it effectively, there's no point in even selling. I'm aware of the the consequences there. How did the business start? Like how did you get from there was definitely a day one. Did your day one start with one or two people, or did you start with some momentum?
Yeah. So the genesis of MediaMint actually was about 10 years ago. I was running another startup that was in the e-commerce space, and we were starting to see some hyper growth. And the issue was that with that hyper growth, our unit economics was terrible. We were actually losing money with every new client we were adding. But to VCs and investors, they're like, "Wow, you guys are growing fast." So there was a positive there.
That's actually super interesting. Can you speak to how does that happen?
I think the goal that people have in those types of situations is they want to prove that they can acquire users, right? In certain businesses, it's just, hey, show me that you can acquire users, and then we'll figure out how we monetize them later, or we'll figure out how to make them profitable later. And we had built a viral loop that was doing just that, but it was actually costing us more money than we were making. And while the eventual goal was we'll have to then figure out how to make it profitable. The perspective I took, and coming from a strategy consulting background before, was the sooner we can actually get this to a positive unit economic business, the stronger we'll be in fundraising, the stronger we'll be in growth, and so on. And so I had reached out to a former colleague of mine, Aditya Vucci, who's the now founder of MediaMint, and essentially explained the challenges that we were having, and the type of team that we needed to set up, and the platforms that we needed to integrate in order to make this all work as an operation. So, based on that framework, they did the coding. They kind of integrated Salesforce, Jira, our backend platform, all into one system. So the operating team had the tools they needed. And then we ramped up the team of 5 agents to help manage all of the merchant services, customer service, and ad operations on the platform. We trained them up within 3 weeks. We had ramped up this team. And previously we were recruiting and training people in the US. It was a high cost and we couldn't maintain that pace. We turned to all of our account managers in the US. We helped them elevate and then delegate out to the team in India. And it brought our unit economics down. We ended up becoming profitable within 2 months of that point. And then we just started scaling from there. So we went from 10,000 users to 20 million users in 18 months. and having MediaMint at the core of the ops execution is what helped us, accelerate and then exit.
God, there's so many places I want to go with that. But like fundamentally, that speaks to the benefit of having operational excellence at the center of a business.
I think it also speaks to, having the right partner that can help you manage those operations. So at the end of the day, founders have wonderful ideas and they start running in a direction on a product or selling a service. And inevitably, as the company grows, they start moving away from the things they love doing and they start becoming more HR managers, trying to build, trying to recruit, trying to do all those things. And for strategic roles that you need to have locally, that's very critical. But as you get to the operational side, as it starts scaling, having the right partner in place that you can rely on to, truly be focused on your business and look for that continuous improvement, and someone that is trusted and can help you build those repeatable processes, it just becomes a strategic advantage.
So you started with Salesforce and Jira and some code. So ad tech is very different, though not dramatically different, but I mean, it's just different tools, right? So were you involved in the ad tech element of the business then, or how did you come to understand the nuances of advertising technology?
So Aditi and I had previously worked at a company called Exponential Interactive. Some people know it as Tribal Fusion. So we both had quite a bit of ad tech experience. The e-commerce platform that we had built very much, in many ways, was an advertising platform for small businesses. So there was a lot of the same aspects of ad tech, generally having an insertion order, a platform to set up a campaign and then run those campaigns. So the parallels were very close. The next set of clients as the company grew, including companies like Pulpo Media, AdRoll, Pinterest, all lived in that space. And so that's kind of how the team has built up capabilities and experience across the ad tech space. And because we're platform agnostic, I think we work on nearly every platform that's out there today, depending on whatever the client needs.
And so you essentially built MediaMint inside another company. And at what point did you realize, how did you navigate that? Because I imagine your operational, the group of people and the group of capabilities that became MediaMint, how do you transition it out of one company and push it into a wholly separate entity? Like, how does that work? Or did you not need to do that, and it just you just restarted from scratch again after the company you're at sold? Or like how does that transition go?
So the company that I had been building.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. MediaMint effectively was a separate entity and was a operating partner of the company. That company was called HomeRun.com. So HomeRun, as it was growing, was just a client of MediaMint. MediaMint then started building additional clients as they grew. HomeRun eventually was sold off to another company called Deem.com that rolled us up into some products that they had for enterprise businesses. And MediaMint just kind of continued to identify and build clients as it went forward.
So tell me about what. So I'm looking at your LinkedIn profile. Sold HomeRun in 2011. You were with Deem till October 2012. Volume till December 2016. Like at what point in all of this does MediaMint, is there a trigger that goes from a small group of people that constitutes MediaMint to 800? Like, is there a tipping point there somewhere? Or was it steady growth? Like every year, 8 years at 100 people, how does that work?
So the company grew in a very organic, steady, linear way. from the starting point for the first, I'd say 6 years, it grew to about 150 to 200 people serving about 15 to 20 clients. Along the way, I had been advising Aditya, and we had been talking about the growth plans and trajectory. I joined back in 2017 full time, and based on the scope of work that we've been doing and the types of clients I knew that we could serve, given the quality of the operation and the breadth of services, we just started accelerating the types of clients that we were working with. And so we went from 200 employees to roughly 800 employees in about 3.5 years. In order to do that, right, and as Scott mentioned before, if you think about this in terms of like having a baton race, it doesn't matter how fast any one of the legs are, or any one of the runners are, if you don't have that great handoff from one group to the next group, and it's smooth and it's consistent, then you're going to have a company that falters. So that's why we were able to bring in great guys like Ashay, who kind of could take it from the business development right into operationalizing it for the first 30, 60, 90 days, and then it hands off to the delivery team, who then kind of takes it for the marathon afterward. So, to build the organization to that point, I think what is really important is, as you look at every component, if you look at every component of your business as an engine, you need to tweak them to make sure that each one is running in harmony. And then, wherever you see those challenges, just put extra focus on that piece, get it running, and then move forward. So for us, I'd say the engine that became critical was our recruiting, and then our learning and development group. So we needed to figure out, how do you move from hiring 5 or 6 people a month to how do you hire 50 to 100 people a month?
Who oversees that?
Yeah. So Nilima, who's the co-founder, she heads human resources, talent acquisition, and also the finance side. So we, at the moment, the one group that we haven't spoken, which is kind of the core to our business, is our operations group. So Anush, who's our chief operating officer, basically he runs the ship like no one else that I've known, to be honest, right? And in many ways, we're there to just kind of facilitate, understand the requirements, and kind of alter our strategies according to their requirements, right? So this, I'm talking about the talent acquisition plan, or I'm talking about kind of human resource engagement, like what are the career paths that we need to develop, what is the investment that we need to make in the organization, so that people stick around for a long time. They're excited to be with us. And then from a client side, what are the additional value that we can add to clients, that in turn then gives opportunities to the people that we have onboarded to kind of go in different directions, in terms of their career growth. So at the moment, Nilima heads the human resources and the talent acquisition group.
Just hiring people is like finding the right person is such a risk. How do you do that consistently?
Right. So we've learned through our mistakes, and I think now we have like real confidence and conviction in our hiring capabilities in terms of the scale that we're currently operating. So we've invested a lot in terms of getting the right talent through the door, right from having, especially above a certain level, leads and managers, having them go through a personality assessment, psychometric tests. Apart from the technical testing, so if you're hiring for a publisher side platform, you do your normal Google Ad Manager, AppNexus, whatever the case may be, you put them through certain tests that are in line with their previous experience. But that's just a technical component. That doesn't get you in MediaMint. There is the attitude, the personality, the culture fitment, These are the real intangible pieces that are key to successful hiring. So we've invested a lot in terms of having the right tests in place, having the right interview mechanism in place, so that you're looking for signs and signals. So Jason touched upon learning and development. So apart from learning and development, more technical aspects, there is a whole kind of how do you conduct an interview? How are you kind of qualifying a person to go to the next stage of the interview process? We've invested quite a bit of our time and effort in that. And as I mentioned, it's an ever evolving process, but at the moment we feel fairly confident that regardless of the ask coming in from the sales team, or regardless of the size of the pipeline, we are well positioned to cater to that demand.
So let's jump a little bit forward to the current moment. It's April 2020. We all negotiated the coronavirus and COVID-19 global challenges, and as I was really impressed with the steps that you took to protect your own team. You guys were definitely forward thinking in how you approach the safety of your organization, the members of your organization. Can you speak a little bit to the challenges and just the overall things that are happening in the world today? And I know it's an evolving situation, but like I said, it was just really heartening to hear how well you guys were taking care of your people in really, really, really uncertain times.
The very first thing is, I think we had our ears to the ground. We were very aware. We were ahead of the curve in many ways. Luckily, India is not as badly affected as some of the other countries, but obviously, I mean, as of today, I think the numbers have swollen, and we're above, I think, fairly above 10,000 cases. As soon as the news started trickling in, we started taking our cues from other countries in terms of what they're doing, what's the impact on society, what's the impact on business. We are very pleased in hindsight that we were at least 3 or 4 days ahead of the curve.
Which makes a big difference, by the way. Like I just read an article that, or my wife actually told me about it. She's like, it's quite possible that the difference between the low number of cases in California and the high number of cases in New York is a week. The week that New York, so California went into sort of a general stay-at-home order a week before, like 6 days before New York. Massive difference. Same thing in China. I read that in China, the scientists were saying in Wuhan, if they would have taken action 6 days earlier, we actually the whole world might not be in a pandemic right now. Massive.
I think the other component that makes a difference in terms of being ahead of the curve is being able to prepare our team for being quarantined, working from home, and having the resources, because in India it's not exactly the same as here, where most people have laptops, most people have high-speed internet at home. So for us working from home, it's not. There are definitely parts that are different, but in terms of the actual infrastructure, we've got it. At MediaMint, we had to, and being ahead of the curve was super important in getting all these resources, where we were able to have our IT people go out to people's homes, make sure that the internet worked there. If they needed devices to work on, procuring those before everybody else did. And we were ahead of the curve. It's funny, Robert, you and I were having lunch when in LA, when I was out there for a conference, and MediaMint was already, I think, 85% of the way prepped for the potential of having to work under quarantine at that point in time. So that was long before the California or New York even.
Yeah. So you guys had to go in and wire your teams living home to ensure that they could actually continue to operate from their home, like internet, computers. Wow.
And we also had to procure some additional office space close to some of our core team who work with very sensitive clients, where they do need to be in an office, but it needed to be close by, close by where some of these people lived.
what we were doing from the leadership side is, we meet every week and talk about the business, where things are going. And probably 2 or 3 weeks before any of the shutdowns were starting to happen, we kind of asked the question of, what if this Black Swan event actually, extended beyond China? Like, how would that actually impact business? How does that impact our clients? And at the end of the day, what is our backup plan to our backup plan, right? So let's go 2 levels deep. And, the answer was, well, there is the situation where everyone would have to be shifted to the work from home model. And so as Scott mentioned, the steps we took initially was, buying 300 or 400 computers, doing the checks on everyone's homes, collecting all that data to know, who is, set up for success and who's not. And, ensuring that, okay, let's now pressure test that for the first week and see how 20 or 30% of our team can operate in that model before we move 100% of the people to a full work from home model. And, accelerating that, it accelerated much faster than we expected. But based on us taking those preparation steps is what got us to a point where we not only were we comfortable operating from home, but Asha, you may be able to give some data on, we've actually had feedback from a lot of clients that have said things are running even more efficiently than ever before for their operations.
Just to add a little bit of context in terms of the preparation, right? So we talk about business continuity plans, and for the most part, they're theories. They are these big documents, right? Just the actual success of the business continuity plan is in its outcome, right? When a crisis happens, whether that business continuity plan made any sense, if you were able to execute that. From our point of view, we literally had a war room, and that's what it's called. We had a war room set up. Aditya, Neelima, everyone from the leadership team leading from the front. We basically went to every employee, asked them for, like, all right, which is your updated address? What is your kind of, computer status? Do you have a personal computer? Do you have a, like a desktop at home? What's the internet status? What's the speed that you typically get? How do you commute to office? So all of that was ready way before even the business continuity plan kicked in. But the fact that we had that data, we had kind of routes mapped out in terms of which are our mission critical people that need to be up and running when the government, I say, flips the switch and puts everyone in lockdown. We were able to kind of identify that. We moved from the business continuity plan stage 1 to stage 2 very, very quickly. Once we saw that was working, then that was like, it's just you're kind of taking updates every 6 hours, every 8 hours in terms of, hey, do we need to move? So going from that 25-30%, testing that's working, and then moving to 100%, that was just methodical, planned, and very, very structured. Very high communication between the leadership team. But just to add a little bit to what Jason mentioned, the outcome, and we've been doing this for about 4 weeks now, the outcome has been just phenomenal in terms of, it's very pleasing that our plan has worked. That's number one. The surprising things are, Jason mentioned, productivity has gone up, which is crazy to think, right? We were under the assumption that, hey, we need to kind of convey to our clients that they may be operating at around 70-80% productivity, SLAs, etc. None of our clients, like without exception, none of our clients have suffered a dip in quality. None of them have suffered a dip in SLAs or availability, which is just an insane thing for an organization of about 800 people. So that's been the pleasing bit.
I'll add one piece to that last bit is I think this speaks very highly toward the work that Neelima, Anush, Ashay, Aditya have been doing in India, where we've been focused on hiring the right people, focused on the learning and development program. And obviously the whole goal was to build the next set of leaders in the organization, right? And I don't think we even knew to the extent that people had basically really embraced that program until this event happened. And we've seen in our organization, leaders stepping up across all functions at every level in the organization that have, taken this in stride and found ways to succeed. I believe that's probably the same thing in a lot of other organizations out there, from our clients and everybody else, where you're starting to see people that, perhaps were overlooked, that all of a sudden are really stepping up to a degree that, just helps the business run and helps, clients perform. So from our side, my big thank you is going to go out to all of the associates, leads, and managers who, at the end of the day, are the ones driving the business and delivering for our clients.
Do you think that this is going to result in the opportunity for your people to work from home? Do they want to work from home?
It's a very interesting conversation. So just before this crisis happened, this pandemic hit, we were in a super growth mode, right? So we were already in discussions in terms of acquiring additional space to accommodate about 300 additional people. We were going across campus drives all over India, trying to identify talent. We always had a work from home policy. So we've been different to a bunch of service companies in India. So we've always had that option. But it's, typically a day a week, maybe, 2 days a month or so. We now are almost analyzing the data to see whether, what's the workstation to employee ratio that we need to maintain. And that's a completely different conversation than what it was, I would say, 60 days ago. So we have the data now. And so in many ways, that would be accounted in the long-term planning whenever we come out of this.
What and we'll wrap it up shortly. What tools have become more critical now, if any, than they have been? And I'll start and I'll say, like, our business is built on Slack, Microsoft SharePoint, certainly Zoom, and text messages. Like, that's how we generally communicate. Also emails, of course. Are there any tools that you found, and again, we're 100% work from home by the design of our business. As you've made this transition, have there been any tools that have popped out as becoming particularly important now that the world has changed?
Yeah, I think for our business, we've been so ingrained, internally in our business, we've been so ingrained in the Google suite of products from our collaboration. So using Hangouts and Google Chat and separately even WhatsApp for like our WhatsApp groups within our organization to talk to leads and managers. So none of that has really changed for us. I would say we've definitely seen an increase with the clients that we work with in some of the tools they're using. And so obviously Zoom is accelerated. We were always working off Slack. We're always working off Jira and Riback and whatever platforms and tools that they were using. So for us, it hasn't been a huge shift in kind of communication behavioral patterns, as much as it's just been an increase in the amount. And I think the increase in the video chat is due more to the fact that clients within their own teams can't just meet each other in their own meeting rooms. They now need to have the Hangout or Zoom calls going, and we get pulled into more of that.
Yeah, like it's interesting because when I started this business, I thought, well, I'm not going to advertise that we're a work from home company because it makes us seem like we're not a real company. And certainly, I do some consulting work every now and then for Prohaska Consulting, and Matt Prohaska is a big proponent for video, like being on video. No matter where you are, just be on video. It helps. So over the last couple of years, I've also adopted that, and and I was like, I'm feeling a little uncomfortable, like a little self-conscious, like our company is going to think we're not a real company because we work from home, especially because we work with larger companies. And now that the world has changed, all of a sudden I'm like feeling great about my background because it's set up for my office, But I think it's an honest thing. Like, we're all humans. Like, we all live in normal spaces, right? Like, we all have drapes and fans and beds and like that's who we are as humans. Like let's be done with all the silly pretenses that are so unnecessary. And I think this actually accelerates the humanity of it all. Like, we're all just trying to get by. We all work from home. I love that. So guys, as we end, I have two final questions that I'm going to do a round robin for each of you. Now, the first question is, I'm a big foodie. I love to eat great food wherever you are. I'm really interested in like some really good Indian food. So tell me what's going on with the food scene. Jason, you're in San Francisco? Okay.
Yes.
What's good to eat, whether it's home cooked or eating out? What do you love?
Well, I'd say home cooked right now, and I've been taking advantage of this time to do a lot more barbecuing. So, anytime you can throw a steak and some veggies on the grill, it's definitely my favorite. But I'd say out here, our favorite is a place called Soul Food, which is an incredibly delicious Cuban place. We can order once a week, drive down. They already have the food ready, so they walk it up to your car, so you don't have to. You can social distance appropriately, and then get it back to the house.
I think I'm going to get slaughtered for this. So I am in Hyderabad, and Hyderabad is kind of the center for spicy, hot Indian food. The one thing about Indian food is there is no real generic Indian food, by the way. There are 28 different provinces that have 28 different cuisines, right? So I originally come from the western side of India, which is close to Bombay, a state called Maharashtra. And I'm more used to the milder spices, a little bit of bland type of food. And moving to Hyderabad 2 years ago, it's been a change for me. It's just my whole awareness of my lack of spice tolerance has been an experience in itself. And go out with friends here, and they're like, oh, make that hotter, like more chili, etc. And I'm just sweating myself just looking at that. So in terms of favorite food, so luckily in India, the options have grown in terms of global cuisine. There's a place called Tim Thai, which is kind of an Indo-Thai. So there is Thai food, but there's an Indian spice variation to it. I think so. That's been the favorite for me and my wife. And in many ways, every time you have a different global cuisine in India, it becomes like Indo-Italian, Indo-Chinese, Indo-Thai. Because we add our own spices. So we actually quite enjoy that, to be honest.
Indo-Italian. I'm going to do some exploration on that. Scott, what about you in New York?
Well, my wife had what we think was COVID, which took about three and a half weeks for her to go through. So I did some, I don't usually cook, but I did some of the cooking, which was kind of fun, actually. I enjoyed it. I missed it. But we also order from places around here, and New York being New York, we've got a lot of great food. There is a good Indian place around the corner, which I haven't ordered from since the crisis hit. But a little further down, oddly enough, New York has great food from all over the world, but there is a dearth of good Mexican food. And in my neighborhood, there actually is a really good Mexican place down the street. Funny thing about them is the governor changed the liquor laws here. So I went down and picked up dinner one night there, and I saw the sign out front. So to help businesses, restaurants try and make money, the governor enabled carry-out liquor from restaurants. So they had a sign out front. It was I think it's like $10 for a regular margarita. I think it's $20 or $21 for like a liter. which is which is good. It's nice to have their margaritas. But there's a lot of good food here. There's the pizza's great. There's also a really good place. A guy actually comes from the media world who owns a place called Indian Road Cafe, which is quite good.
Nice. My favorite, and I haven't had this for a while, is Gino's East of Chicago Pizza, which is newly opened here in Sherman Oaks. I went there a lot, and then I stopped going because I went on a keto diet. And my wife makes, I'm trying to remember the name of it now. It's basically a cucumber salad with a little bit of dill, vinegar, and sour cream. It is the best. How can people contact you? What's your contact info? What's the best setup here?
Yeah, I'd say that the best way to contact us is either reaching out to probably me directly at jason@mediamint.com, or going through to our contact us page on our website. There's a small form field that they can fill out, their name, phone number, business, and if they have any specific information they want to share, pass it along, and our team will reach out right away to kind of understand what's going on. And very quickly, our process is, we'll do a quick 30-minute to 60-minute consulting / discovery call to understand kind of what the business needs and challenges are. We'll identify the right people internally and then set up a solutions call so you can kind of meet the team and understand what are the processes and functions that we can support. And then from there, we usually can move very quickly within 1 to 2 weeks into onboarding a team. So it's very quick from having a need to having a team ready to go.
Awesome. Jason, Ashay, and Scott, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for listening to this episode of the LA Business Podcast. If you like what we're doing on this podcast, please consider subscribing on Apple or Google Play, leaving a 5-star review, and sharing with your friends. If you have any questions, comments, or recommendations for a guest you'd like to hear on this podcast, please email me, robert@brillmedia.co. Thank you. Have a fantastic day.